Hello, everyone. Welcome. My name is Greg. Thank you for joining us tonight for our Women in Esports and Gaming panel. Joining us today will be the gameHERs. Also joining me today is Cindy, one of our social media team members from GG Leagues. Sorry for starting a little bit late here, but thank you everyone for tuning in. We'll jump right into things here. Just to introduce ourselves here from the GG Leagues team a little bit, my name is Greg Bohm. I'm a partner success manager with GG Leagues. I grew up in Santa Monica, California, and I graduated from the University of Michigan in 2016 studying environmental science. Before working with GG Leagues, I worked as a senior educator at the California Science Center, as well as in high school esports coaching with the North American Scholastic Esports Federation. Currently, I live in Chicago, Illinois, and outside of gaming, I really enjoy skateboarding, reading, and camping in my spare time. And I'll pass it off to Cindy here to introduce herself.
Hey everyone, good evening. Thank you for joining us. I am one of the social media play here at GG Leagues. I was born and raised in the city of Chicago, graduated from DePaul University with a bachelor's in business management and concentration in sports management. And during my time at DePaul, I was also one of the directors of community outreach for our DePaul Esports student leadership program. And in my free time, I do like to hike with my dog, Paw Mom.
Awesome, thank you. Just want to provide a little bit of background info on the gameHERs and some of their initiatives. But before we bring on some people who are joining us from the gameHERs as well. But the gameHERs is a women-led community dedicated to amplifying and centering the voices of women gamers and gamers of marginalized genders who are comfortable in spaces that center women. They create a sexist-free space for casual players, hardcore players, and players of all types, or just people who are interested in gaming or esports in general. And their mission is to advance the role, voice, image, and power of all the gameHERs in the gaming world. Some of the really cool initiatives that the gameHERs runs throughout the year. One that we wanted to focus on was the gameHERs Awards here. The gameHERs Awards is the only award show in gaming by women for women and recognizes a lot of exceptional women in gaming throughout many disciplines. We will be sending these slides to everyone who RSVP'd on Eventbrite as well, and they do have some videos on there that provide some more info. But all of this is accessible from their website as well. But one other initiative that's pretty recent that we wanted to touch on as well is their Collegiate programs that they have started. The gameHERs Collegiate program provides a safe, inclusive space for collegiate women and femme-identifying humans who game and or have a desire to work in the gaming industry. And their collegiate program provides connections, opportunities to those who are interested in pursuing careers in the gaming industry. I have a few links here to some of the various social media pages for the gameHERs if you're interested in learning more. All of these are accessible from their homepage, like I mentioned as well. But in just a moment, we're going to bring on a couple members of the gameHERs team to join us for a discussion. Joining us tonight will be Rebecca Dixon, who is the CEO and one of the co-founders of the gameHERs, as well as Rebecca Longawa, who is the Chief Strategy Officer for the gameHERs. And I'm going to pass it off to Cindy, who will go ahead and bring on Rebecca and Rebecca to get our conversation started here.
Thank you, Greg. Good evening, everybody. Hi, Rebecca Longwow and Rebecca Dixon.
Hi.
How's everyone doing
Hi.
today?
We're
Doing
good.
great. So happy to be here.
Rebecca
Awesome.
squared. We're used to being referred to as the Rebeccas. So, no worries.
That should be a hashtag. I like that. Perfect. So we'll get started. I would like for you guys to tell us a little bit about the Game Herds mission, the foundation, and really what brought you the Rebeccas to work together.
Sure. I will kick it off. So my name is Rebecca Dixon. I am one of the 4 co-founders of the gameHERs. Thrilled to be here. So thank you so much for having both of us. The gameHERs actually just celebrated our 2nd birthday. We launched the same week that COVID shut the US down. And it was a great time to launch a company in this industry, actually. And to give a little background about how we came together as co-founders and in a position to want to start this company, three of the four co-founders had a community building company in a totally different industry in the parenting space prior to this. And we learned a lot about building community through unique content curation and creation and looking back to the community to make decisions based on their feedback for how we could support them and really growing and nurturing. So we sold that business in 2016. We had a lot of really strong adjacencies to the gaming industry and kind of reasons to start following it as entrepreneurs who were looking and interested in women's initiatives and building community. We noticed that the statistic was often quoted in the gaming industry: half of gamers worldwide are women. And we thought, wow, that doesn't seem true. Is it true? So I was following the gaming industry because it's a family business. My dad and my brother are part owners of MV Gaming. So I had been talking about esports and gaming at Thanksgiving dinner for many years, but not actively following it. My co-founder went from that parenting space to toys, was doing some product design with Alcon, the visionary behind Pokemon. And she noticed the same thing. We found ourselves at conferences and events in gaming that were not very diverse and didn't have a large number of women, yet this statistic kept being quoted. So we did a really deep dive, found that yes, half of gamers are women. Yes, there are lots of women in the industry who are great, not enough, but a lot. But we felt like we could apply our community building skills to this industry and create a space for women who game to find each other, to support each other, also create a space where we could use that community as they, we're coming together as a community, use that community as an influencer, as media to bring light to all the kind of current initiatives that were happening and are now 2 years later happening even more. So that's a little bit about our sort of evolution. And I'll let Rebecca Longoa share how she joined us, because it's a really fun story too, and her background is pretty incredible.
Yeah, so I came from sports marketing and advertising. I've been working within that space very early in my career. When I was about 19 years old, started working in the advertising space, very entry level, just like clawed my way into that world. Worked on FedEx's sponsorship of NFL and kart racing, worked with emerging technologies, emerging sports tech, worked within the NBA for a number of years in sports innovation and tech, as well as, really kind of managing the brands of the Minnesota Timberwolves and Minnesota Lynx, and how really the evolution of innovation was applied within a pro sports org. I was able to kind of ride what I would call the digital wave, right? So almost had a leg up by going directly into the workforce while my peers were still in college, because I was able to be a part of a new emerging technology while other people were kind of going to college for things that were becoming outdated. And I've been able to leverage that real life experience to inform being on the cusp of innovation throughout my career, and really help hone in on the sports technology and now esports technology ecosystem. And being on the brand side, being on a pro team side, has informed a certain amount of like marketing mindset and experiential and activation mindset, in which allows me to bring thought leadership and skills into the esports space. And I have a podcast called The Future of Marketing and Esports, where I just talk to kick-ass people every single day and like help the world see the cool things that are happening in this industry. And I had Rebecca on my show a little over a year ago, we met through Arta Ocal, who's now at ESPN, and it was just like a really cool conversation that we had, and it just sparked a ton of conversation around the community of the GameHERs, which they really were focused on the community first. Like, you have to build an authentic community, and then over the past year, we've been really focused on, okay, the community exists and it's robust and it's very community driven. It's like going in its own direction in a number of directions based on what we're the vessel where people connect, but they're the leaders of really our organization, right? It's about what they're wanting to achieve, what their goals and aspirations are, the discussion points and tangents that they want to go on. We just are the vessel in which they can come together to build that community and have those conversations. And then it's been like, okay, well, how can we bring that into the mainstream? How can we connect brands? How can we connect orgs? How can we bring thought leadership into that space? So that's really the next evolution of the GameHERs, is the purpose driven, tangible ways that we can make a difference in moving the needle forward for women holistically in this space. And that's really what puts a fire in our bellies when we wake up every single morning.
That's absolutely amazing. And as a woman, I thank you for creating that specific space, right? For everybody to come in together and join in and really create, like you said, like that foundation of like really where everybody meets. And then it really is up to those who are in it to really take the lead into how big and what else comes in next. That's beautiful. Thank you for doing that. But I mean, congratulations again on launching in the midst of a pandemic. That's huge. I mean, it's huge on itself to just start off something from scratch, right? But to really just do it that week or 2 weeks after a pandemic hits the entire world, like that's just incredible. But where would you say that, like looking back, how do you feel, or how has the game has really grown since the pandemic, really since year one and year two and where we are right now?
I think that, so some of our, going through the evolution of our company, we launched 2 years ago. We launched honestly with an idea that creating that space that Rebecca Longo was just talking about would be something that women gamers might want. So we really just launched with a brand and a mission statement and values and a space. Now, we did think that we would be able to launch with some in-person events. We were able to attend 2 PAX expos before we launched in order to meet people. And then we weren't able to do that for, of course, a number of years. So what we found immediately is that, yes, there was a desire for this space. So we had right off the bat, a newsletter, a Discord, Instagram, Twitter, and we just started creating community that way. The event that really put us on the map in this industry and with women who game was the GameHERs Awards. And they were an opportunity for us to honor 25 women in the gaming industry across a whole variety of categories, from content creation to esports to collegiate, cosplay, development. And we did feel that it would be a good tool to uplift women who were in the industry and who were gamers who were already doing what they were doing, but maybe not being honored for it. What we did not know is quite how much that was needed, because we were so honored and excited that the first Gamers Awards went viral immediately. We just kept refreshing our computers as more people started voting, because it was so heartwarming to see how excited everybody got. And so that was a big moment for us right off the bat. We launched in March and we started kicking off the kind of lead up to the awards in July of 2020. After we were in that process and sort of at the same time as that was all developing, we consistently heard a pain point from women who game, or I should say we heard a consistent pain point, which was women who game cannot find each other. They need a place to connect. So, of course, there are many places to connect, and there were already. And that being said, the ways to find each other were still difficult. So Discord is a great community, a great place for community, but it's mostly a great place for communities that exist. So we have a super robust Discord, and yes, the Gamers does have a Discord server that you could join, and we also just launched a collegiate specific server, so we have two. Um, but we did really hear that in order to find somebody to game with and really just have a space to be supportive around gaming, that it would be valuable for us to create an app. So we, in year one, I think our big accomplishment was the awards. In year two, we had a few big accomplishments. One was the launch of our app, and the other was just kind of continued growth across all of our platforms. We were able to, in the second half of 2021, do live events. And then, of course, Omicron came and those stopped, and now we're back. But live events were a really big deal for community building. Of course, most of you who are listening right now are probably big believers that gaming is a community building activity. That's not always well known. And so we were even, because we launched when we did, we were even surprised how much live events and in-person events would be important.
Yeah. And if I can just interject for a moment, I think we'd be remiss not to talk about the growth of awards from that first year to the second year, because the first year, as Rebecca stated, we were blown away by the response to building out the first awards show that was, really led by women, voted by women. It was really community driven. And we had 600 nominations. And that was, 600 individual creators within the entire esports and gaming ecosystem that were being recognized by their peers and nominated by their peers, and a spotlight was being shown upon them. And it was pretty phenomenal in and of itself, especially during COVID. But I will say that what we saw this last year in 2021 was that 600 nomination number jumped quickly to 5,000 nominations for women in the industry. And what we
Wow.
see in the industry as a whole is there are award shows and award initiatives for the industry, and there might be a handful. And when I say a handful, I really mean, 3 to 5 awards that are specific to women. But there's so many categories and verticals within this space where women need to be recognized and deserve a spotlight on them. So, for us to be able to take 600 nominees and highlight 600 individuals that are being recognized for the work they do, and completely, like, multiply that to the number of 5,000, regardless of anything else that we've done in 2021 and building an app and building out other shows, and that in of itself is such a success for us that we really feel like we're honoring women in this space. And we really want to ensure that the entire gaming and esports community knows how viable women are in this space, and how much the entire esports and gaming ecosystem desires to spotlight and highlight these women. And it shows very truly within the GameHERs awards in itself. So I have to pause and just highlight that growth, and we anticipate the trajectory to just completely grow from here as our awards season in 2022 will kick off this summer as well.
Absolutely.
I should have mentioned that, and I'm so glad that you highlighted it.
It's just major. Like, it's just like one of those things that, like, we can be proud. Like, we can be proud, but that's just us being the amplifier of what is already happening. Women are already doing these amazing things in this space. We all know that they are. Like, Cindy, like, the amazing things that women do in this space because you're a woman in this space and you're a part of that community. But the mainstream has really kind of focused on other data, and women are so often left in the dust. So,
Ab- Absolutely. I completely agree with you. And I think that's, the most amazing part about the game hers that not only does it provide and give that space, but it really highlights really the accomplishments and really what women are capable of doing and what they've done and how they do it. And they just continue to highlight these incredible remarks. And I think it's absolutely amazing. And so kind of with that being said, how can esports really be more accessible in efforts to support DEI, like diversity, equity, and inclusion, and like really what in general as the industry grows, what else and what other things can other companies do to add themselves really into that taking on that initiative, taking on that role, and really commit to providing the DEI that we have for everybody.
yeah. So think about the gaming and esports ecosystem as, you know, almost like a conveyor belt and a network. Every single thing within that supply chain has a role and responsibility in moving the needle forward for DEIB. So it starts with investment strategy. So, as investors in esports technology, building out new platforms, building out new tech, investing in new games, it is the role of an investor to take a look at the suite and set of founders and advisors and ensure that they're investing in emerging technology that has founders and a board of advisors that are diverse in thought, diverse in experience, diverse in gender, and you know and also in race. And as an investment advisor globally, I have now drawn a line in the sand on organizations that I will mentor and advise on and be a part of that system. I will not mentor a company that is full of white men. I just won't do it. And even if their philosophy is we want to do better, like you could have done that from day one. And I'm not going to bring 22 years of thought leadership to help that type of an investment strategy go into market. So, like, hard truth, sorry, going to be
Yeah.
honest there. Then you get into the game developers and publishers, female protagonist characters being built into game design is a major issue. A couple of years ago, it was less than 6% of characters within video game design were protagonists. That's gotten up to close to 12%. It's like, somebody could take that data and say we've doubled the effort, but also it's 12%. So, like, do better. We need more female protagonist characters for young girls to look up to. When you look at video games that are marketed to the 8-year-old to 14-year-old young girls, it's, pick out your cute outfit, dress up your pony. That is not what young women are aspiring to do. And we see young girls clamoring to play Overwatch and really looking towards the characters of Mercy, and really wanting to be into Fortnite, and girls desire to see themselves represented. I grew up in a household in which the only character I could resonate with was the princess that Mario is going to save. So I'm going to sit in a freaking tower all day long. Like, where do I fit in? And now I've grown into an industry where I want to ensure that I can bring thought leadership that's going to move things forward. From a league side, how do you model leadership? What type of emphasis can a league put on DEI training for the teams that fall underneath that league? Where is that balance? And then from a team side, in terms of hiring um, a diverse set of individuals within that space, and then what is that DEI training for the staff within the team? And furthermore, how can a team help educate the brands they partner with to ensure that before they execute on a partner strategy or a brand strategy, that that strategy includes a diverse set of visuals and tone of voice, um, as well as the brands themselves thinking about a balanced content. We see time and again these, consumer product brands coming into the space, really honing in on that 18 to 34-year-old male market, which is very esports enthusiast. However, 46% of gamers are women. So how can a brand think about balanced content, think about a brand voice, and create a balanced media buy and targeting in which talks to those women? And it really even bleeds all the way down to hiring practices and ensuring that when you create these gaming engines that are very well known in the space to promote jobs in the gaming and esports ecosystem, that the tone of voice is inclusive and the visuals are balanced and people of color are represented and women are in those types of communication strategies, in a lot of times what we hear from orgs, from the publishers all the way down to teams, is that they are trying to hire diverse and they're not getting the applicants. So we built out a job platform. We built out an ecosystem in which they can amplify those existing jobs to get it in front of our 500,000 followers that we have within our ecosystem. But some of the change could be done by just creating imagery of women like the three of us on this call, on this stream, that really show young women that are emerging in their market that gaming is a space for them, that gaming includes them.
Yes, absolutely.
I don't think I can add anything to that. Rebecca covered pretty much the majority of what I would have said. The only thing that I will add, because I think it is important, and you did touch on this, Rebecca, is that at the end of the day, in fact, it's what you started with investment. It really has to come from within an organization. So for us, I mean, it's very granular. It's like hire a diverse team, talk about diversity internally. We can be in the middle of our awards voting counting when we had 150,000 votes and we were working around the clock, and we still need to take time to get together as a team and do whatever it is that we're biweekly diversity, equity, inclusion training, and then discussions, and then groups, and then reassessing and looking at our content and looking at our team, and messing up sometimes and then figuring it out. And it's a journey, but it really has to start from internally. Otherwise, how does anybody know what they're doing?
Yes, exactly. I completely agree. And Rebecca, I think you hit, well, both of you, you both definitely hit on, it has to start internally, it has to start inside. And if the opportunity, or if that effort is not brought to you, or if you're just not provided with that diverse group that you're working with, then how do you create those opportunities so that there is more diversity within your space? And so kind of that kind of leads me to the next question of like, what initiatives is the GameHERs, or what are they do, or what is the GameHERs now doing at the collegiate level, really to increase the participation of women in esports? One of the big things at DePaul University when I attended was there was the esports space was there, but it was very minimal. It was just kind of on the side, right? Until really a group of students decided to take it to the next level. But that wouldn't have happened again until otherwise given the opportunity to do so. So in the situation of, the GameHERs, really what is that next step? Or like how are we increasing the participation of women in general?
Rebecca, why don't you let me kick this one off, and then I'll turn it
Talk about the background of the DePaul relationship, because the DePaul relationship is like really paramount to why the collegiate
Yeah.
division exists. So yeah, speak to that.
Yeah, I mean, it's really fascinating. First of all, there's so many great things that I love about this question for this specific discussion. We were only in existence as a company for it was a matter of weeks before we realized if we are going to move the needle for women in gaming, we better pay attention to the collegiate space because number one, just sheer numbers. There are a lot of college students in the world, and a lot of them are women, and a lot of them game. And then we started doing a little bit of research and networking, and of course, this was all virtual. So this was the time when everybody was having virtual conferences, and literally, we were and still are a startup. It was like figuring out who were the big players in the collegiate space, the collegiate esports space, and also just where were the women gamers, and kind of just figuring it out. So for about 6 months, our internal team went to conferences, had phone calls with some really senior administrators and esports coaches and people who were speaking on panels and creating leagues, and also a ton of students. We created an ongoing Google Doc of all of our thoughts and strategies about how we could make a difference, because we knew we could make a difference. And then we hit a wall and said, you know what, we need some help figuring out really how to where do we go next. And coincidentally, that was exactly the time I was on Rebecca Longo's podcast, realized her experience in this industry. And over a year later, she's our chief strategist and does a ton in so many different areas of our organization. But how Rebecca first came to us was I sent her our messy Google Doc and said, here's what we've done in college. Can you help us, figure out where to go from here? And I'll let her talk about kind of where we've gone since then, but I will talk about DePaul, which is one of the colleges, the universities that we did meet early on was DePaul, and we were able to create a pilot chapter. We're doing a number of different things that Rebecca can talk about in college, and we have a lot of big plans. But we did want to pilot a chapter program, and DePaul was a really good partner for us in that area. And I think it was at the time that we were involved, creating that pilot program, it was a number of women students who were gamers, support from the university, and just sort of the ability to do it. Now, a lot of schools don't have those things. Maybe there aren't quite enough women gamers, or they don't know how to find each other, or the school doesn't support it. So we can get into all that, because that's some of the space where I think we can help. Rebecca, I'll turn it over to you, because you really kicked off the strategy for our college, and it's going so well.
Yeah, I mean, I would say Rebecca sent me the findings, right? And kind of like top line of where they saw themselves fitting within the collegiate space. And there was a lot of data in there and feedback based on what the collegiate community was saying that they felt they needed. And coming from an agency background, I will say one thing that I've learned over the years is discovering something that we call the white space. And the white space is where there's not only a perceived need, but a vocalized need that nobody else is filling. Sometimes the white space is like a food brand that is emerging, and they want to have their logo a color that no one else is using, right? But within this instance, the white space was very tangible, and there were deliberate, actionable items that no one else was taking in regards to women in esports. And some of the feedback that I was looking through was some of it was like leading to the toxicity. Like, some of the women were coming into these spaces and feeling like the guys were gravitating towards them and trying to date them, which led us to build out the code of conduct on what we wanted the schools to adhere to in terms of what the expectations were set for the school team or club, and all the way down to every student who participates in that, and what their expectations are and how they're going to behave within the setting, right? But a lot of it was they felt like they were potentially going to be tolerated, but they didn't necessarily belong. And that comes down to leveraging the gameHERs name and likeness in order to entice and encourage women to see that where they're going to walk into on campus, that space has committed to them belonging, right? And I always say, and like for anybody who is listening to this, who listens to my podcast or has listened to me on other GameHERs talks, I kind of say it again and again. The GameHERs name and likeness is very similar to a Pride sticker or a Black Lives Matter sticker in the gaming community. If you're walking down a little rural street in the middle of nowhere that you've never been before, and you are a person of color or you are in the LGBTQ community and you need to go into a little shop or a storefront, you don't know how you're going to be treated, right? You're like in a little area you don't know. And if that sticker's in the window, you have this connection immediately to know that being treated with hatred or toxicity is not going to be allowed. It's just not going to be tolerated in that space because that badge of honor is on the window. We are the badge of honor for the entire gaming and esports ecosystem that says when you, as a developer, a publisher, a league, a team, an org, a brand, you align with us, you're going to sign our code of conduct and we will not tolerate, and those partners will not tolerate treating women in a disrespectful manner, right? Women in this space crave to be seen for the talents that they bring to the table, for the skills that they bring to the table. We are not here to be looked at as a product or sexualized or, you know, put on a pedestal as somebody that's a man in this industry, whether they're an executive or a content creator or a player or someone who works for an org, is to date. Like there are apps for that. That is not why we're here. We want to be seen for what we bring to the table and what we're advancing in the space, bottom line. And it comes down to being respected. And that is paramount to what we stand for in the space. So within the collegiate space, it's like if we can set the tone while you are in your college experience in your collegiate years, and that is going to be the tone that's set moving forward, that helps move the needle forward. And then how do we come together, not only in the digital sense because we were birthed during COVID, but from live events, so tournament support, mentorship, job fairs. We really want to encourage that participation of women on campus in the teams and the clubs on campus. And DePaul is like a great case study because they've seen a massive uptick in women joining once they put the posters up, the flyers up, the social media strategy, and really using the GameHERs brand to say you belong here, you belong in this space. We're gonna love on you. We're gonna make you feel safe. We aren't gonna allow toxicity. So that's like the most long-winded on my biggest freaking soapbox of all soapboxes. And I think, culturally, we see so many things come to light right now that, and articles literally breaking today that women are still experiencing a great amount of toxicity in this space. And we're not here to talk about all the bad things that happen in the ecosystem. We're here to inspire, empower, and educate people on what they can do to be better. And I've even talked to men in this space who like haven't even thought about the fact that it makes women super uncomfortable that they're like asking them out in this space. Like it didn't even dawn on them that that's like a no-no, right? It's like about having these authentic, open conversations. We all need to do better about being honest enough to say what we're seeing, what we're feeling, what we're experiencing, and allowing people to be a part of the conversation. One of the things that makes us really, really, really great is we have a ton of male allies that ask us hard questions and they feel stupid sometimes asking us and they say like, oh, I feel kind of, but we're like, no, ask us, like safe space. We're going to tell you what we see, what we feel, what women are saying, what we're experiencing, and we're going to help you do better, but it's not a checkbox. It's not we're going to do a women's tournament and we're one and done. Like we are all about what are the tangible things that can be curated, ongoing and long standing, that really highlight women in this space. It started with the Gamers Awards, but every org can build women's communities. And you look at the Women's Carball Championship League, and 16 teams and 5th season, like, throw some gasoline on that fire. Like, that's phenomenal. That's going to help women be noticed and hopefully get into the Rocket League teams that right now are, men's teams, primarily men's teams. Like, let's highlight these women in a safe place where they can grow and learn together. And Psionics starts, noticing these women, and the GMs and the coaches start, recruiting them to be on these teams. Like, that to us is success. It's not separate but equal. It's creating a safe place for women to advance and to be seen and to be brought into the fold, because there's no reason why there shouldn't be a ton of women competing at the highest level in this sport. There's so many talented women.
Absolutely, it creates that success story for women in general, and especially for everybody. Um, I mean, with that, how do you guys believe that we would get these women, or women in general, to the main stages of esports and competition and in play? Like, how, yes, we are providing this space, we are highlighting their key efforts, and we're really pushing to increase that all at the collegiate level, in high school, at youth. But how do we really make sure that we get them into that competition level, into that specific stage?
I mean, I think, it's so interesting. We get asked a lot, is it important to kind of start at the top, or is it more important to kind of go, is it the little girls that need to come up? And I think the answer where we're coming out is it's all important. It's so many different sort of touch points that need to happen. I think in the younger generations, to sort of have that pipeline, which is for, the future, there's a big piece of it that's parent education. Parents need to think about the fact that that their daughters can also game, and it's just not happening. You may have seen I am the mother of 2 daughters that just came in, if you were looking at my screen. But I have 2 middle school daughters, and they are gamers, and a lot of their friends are not, or they're not supported by their parent. It splits for some reason, and that, if that's starting in 6th grade, then how can you get on that path? So that's a piece of it. But I think a lot of it is, and Rebecca will have some sort of tactical answers to this, but what I will say is just giving visibility to some of the women players who are actually out there right now, who are really good, but for whatever reason aren't getting, for lack of a better word, airtime and opportunity. So it's going to be a little bit of a crawl. It's not an overnight shift. And on the question of separate women's teams and together, it's both. It's like, give them a place to play separately. Also, from a gameHERs perspective, we support women in gaming. So for women who want to have and organizations that want to organize all women's tournaments, great. Let's do that. Should there be women in every regular tournament? Of course. And I think the more that there's visibility given to that, and so there are a lot. One thing I don't think we've touched on is that since the gameHERs launched 2 years ago, we are so thrilled to be able to say that there are also many other initiatives, companies, nonprofits, and women in the industry very aligned with us. Often when we're in investor meetings or talking to brands, people will use the word competitor. Like, is that a competitor? And I can very happily say we don't have anybody, not one organization, that we view as a competitor. And in fact, we have yet to find anybody we can't work with, because first of all, there's a lot of work to be done. And secondly, we can all support each other. So the more that all of those organizations and people and women work together, companies are actively hiring people, the more that women protagonists are in the games. But to get women in the, playing at that level, it's a lot of visibility. But I'll let Rebecca weigh in, because I'm sure she has some thoughts too.
Yeah, I mean, visibility is one thing, but honing in on your skills is another. So I come from traditional sports, and there's a saying. It might even be biblical. I don't know. Iron sharpens iron, right? In order to be the best, you need to play against the best. Oftentimes, working in the NBA, you'd see this like overly confident, super cocky rookie that would come into the space and just get, I don't know if you can swear on this show, but like completely shit on when all of a sudden he's being played, when he's being at that level in the NBA level, right? And they're like, oh, okay, well, I've always been the best. And in traditional sports, we have this thing that is often called the conveyor belt of traditional sports. And it's very linear. You kind of know where you are on the conveyor belt in terms of a system, and it's trackable, and there's data behind it, and you're going to start in like a little league, and you're going to move your way into being scouted and coached and trained, and in season, off season, and clubs and teams and whatever. Esports is a little bit different. What we're seeing, we cannot ignore the conveyor belt of the female experience or the woman's experience within the esports ecosystem. So if you take, like, pretend that I like wanted to be a gamer as a career, and not in the front office of the industry. You go all the way back to when I started playing video games. Well, I have a brother who's 8 years older than me, and systemically in my family, my brother and his friends would come in the door while I'm playing, Tetris, and my mom would say, "Get off of the game system. Your brother is here with Jimmy. Jimmy
Yes.
and Johnny are gonna play, so go with your
Mhm.
Barbie." Literally, like, no
Yeah.
lie, like, real story. Sorry, Kathy, like, you were an asshole. So, like, that was my experience. If my brother wanted to play on the gaming system on our Nintendo, like, we got an Atari 2600, and it was a family gift. But one of my favorite photos I have is my brother hugging it. Like, it was very clear to my sister and I that that was a gift from my brother under the guise of it being a family gift. Like, I hardly ever got to touch that thing. And then, like, that is a systemic, familial, generational, stereotypical issue that so many people have, and still is very, very relevant today in a household. Then, you bring that thought leadership in that stereotype into your family day in and day out. And what are we teaching men? What are we teaching young boys? Is that women don't belong in the space. So what women do is, what you see on the competitive level is women shrinking themselves, really hiding their identity, um, baggy sweatshirts, beanies, hats low, sunglasses, big headphones, really like trying to downplay that they're a woman in the space. On the streaming side, you see the opposite. You see women monetizing the fact that they're being sexualized in the space. So you've got a dichotomy between the two. So you have a streaming financial ecosystem in which um, rewards women for being hypersexualized, and you have a competitive ecosystem that demonizes women for being women in the space at all. And when women cannot compete against the best, and they're not finding the other top women to compete with, they're being lobby kicked out, they're being ganged up on and killed in game, and they're not able to hone their skills because there's an uneven advantage, and they're not able to continue to grow and to learn. So do we want to have just all women's leagues over here and all men's leagues over here? No, because we know that women are capable in competing at extremely high levels within this ecosystem against the men. But in order to curate and develop high level talent, you need to play against other high level talent. And we need male allies to say they're willing to be, aligned and be strong allies with these women to help them develop. And if they're not, we are going to help women come together. And there's great partners like with what eFuse is doing in this space, and version one with their visionaries, and with the commitment that Envy and Optic has put into women in the space to really create these safe places for women to learn and grow. And the Women's Carball Championship League, and creating these leagues. but it's a step towards the equalization of the industry as a whole. And yeah, someone is just saying like boys need to be re-educated about the same thing. It's not their space. It's true. It's so absolutely true. And like I'm starting to see these really awkward trends on TikTok of like, because I follow a lot of gaming things in TikTok. I have a 21-year-old and a 15-year-old that are both really, intense gamers that are in my household and create a ton of gaming content. And some of the trends that I'm noticing just based on algorithm of being in the space are like people pretending to be a girl and tricking this person. It's like, what the hell is going on in this space? Like I'm so done with the pandering and the manipulation and using women as a tool instead of respecting women in this space. Like there really needs to be more conversation, and I've always told my son who's 15, like, I get it, like you're not the toxic person, but it's your job to call out toxicity. Like it is your job to call that out in the space.
And it's not just not just for him but for the new generations to really cut off that vicious cycle that has been with us throughout like the last decades, generations. It's almost as if like our own cultures pretty much planted that seed of this is for boys and for boys only, and girls play this and girls do this, right? And so now we're kind of like at the end of like we're in the consequence of like, oh, this is what's been going on, and this
Mhm.
is why it's this too. Because at the same time, really, our culture was the one that was really pushing those boys to say,
Yeah.
no, we belong in this space. This is our space, not your space. Your space is over there.
Yeah.
Um,
It's kind of like the treehouse club, right?
yep, yep,
And how do you unwind that? And it's not going to happen overnight. So like Rebecca led to, like it's not like we're wanting to create one place over here versus one place over there, like an all women's thing here and all men's thing over there. It's like you almost have to be the bridge that says women have been treated in pretty deplorable ways. It's just I'm not going to shy away from
yep,
saying that. So give them a safe place to heal, express those wounds, um, acknowledge trauma, work together to rebuild. And we've had conversations like with Jeff Palumbo at Lenovo about like what does that timeline look like? Like, can we right this ship in the next 4 years, or is it going to be 14 years, or is it going to be 24 years? We don't really know. Like, we don't have enough data to really inform on how long it's going to take to change systemic trauma and issues. When you see at like the top global publishers and empires in the space trying to check boxes and trying to buy their way into the good graces and not actually doing the tangible things in which support women and support change. And until that happens, um, until people hold the top accountable, it's going to be it's not like it won't happen. It's just the
right,
timeline is going to be longer. The timeline is going to be longer.
absolutely, yes. But I mean, we kind of like with that and pushing off on that. Would the gamers ever like sponsor or ever like create a actual women's competitive team?
So that goes back to Rebecca saying that we want to be able to amplify the voice of everything that's happening in the ecosystem. So if we were to say we're going to be the gameHERs competitive team in these specific verticals, it hinders us in supporting um, a lot of the other teams in a completely non-objective way, right? We want
Yeah,
to be the we want to be the megaphone and the amplifier of everything great for women in the space. I almost see ourselves as more of the um educator for every league to help them determine a sound strategy on not only how can they develop a women's org or a women's division, whether it's in an amateur community or even a pro, and then help them determine a way and help them monetize that as a non-objective voice. Because I will say that every major brand is reaching out, and if we reach out to a brand, they're saying yes, let's have a call. Because from Fortune 100 companies to the endemic brands to the leagues and orgs, everyone's trying to figure out DEI, and there's few companies that exist in this space like ours that are centering the voices of women in the space. So we are in a really unique position. It's just, how can we do best in order to make sure that everyone wins? So yeah, we could say the GameHERS is going to have a series of signed streamers and competitors, and we can totally monetize that. But we are not going to be the purpose-driven organization in which we've set out to do from day one if we were trying to do a cash grab.
And I think, to just take that a little bit further, when I was saying before that all of these other organizations have launched in the past couple of years that we work with, we don't necessarily see a need for us to do that right now because we can support the organizations that are doing it. Now, we certainly would never say never to anything, because 6 months, 12 months, 18 months down the road, who knows what it's going to look like. But I do know that we don't want to put ourselves in a position where, because we're on this side of something, we can't be on that side, because we want to support all positive initiatives for women in gaming, always.
Beautiful. That's perfect. Well, I mean, with that, would you, just before we end this, would you be able to tell us a little bit more about your 2022 professional boot camp? I know it's already planned. I know that's already some initiative that's already launched on your website, and I believe it's taking place the end of very April and May, like the first last weekend of May, April. If you correct me if I'm wrong.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, if you can tell us a little bit more about that, and we can kind of leave the end right there.
Absolutely. It's a great way to end. So we've touched on this a little bit, but we have a lot of women in our community who are looking to get in the industry. And we're excited to spread the word and reach more women who are looking to get in the industry. We also have a lot of access to the highest and most sort of qualified thought leadership and women across the professional side of the industry. So what we are doing, and what we're in the process of doing right now, is curating a really robust lineup from Friday at noon to Sunday at noon, April 29th to May 1st. And it will include everything from keynote speakers to panels to fireside chats, workshops, and mentoring, and everything from very granular things like how to create a Discord and update your LinkedIn and build a resume, to executives talking about their experience in the industry, partnerships, collegiate esports, sales, marketing, development, content creation, building your personal brand. And we will start sharing registration details next week. So we are at thegameHERs on every social, and my name on LinkedIn is Rebecca Dixon. I'm super accessible on LinkedIn. I have my DMs open. I respond to them. And we're just really excited to be here and have the opportunity to share our expertise. And again, every time Rebecca was talking, you could see into a little window of my life. I had my kids out of the room, but that's real life. I've got 3 kids. It's 8:00 in New York City, and this is really fun to be here. And I think it's it's great.
It's real life.
Thank
I was
you
shooing
both.
the dog around and like texting my daughter like, quit letting him up here. Like, it's just the life. It's the life
No,
of COVID.
I didn't even notice, promise you. Well, thank you both so much for your time. I truly appreciate it. Everybody at GG Leaks is more than happy to be partnered with the GameHERs. And to everybody that made it out tonight and was able to like catch the stream, thank you for watching. Thank you, everybody, and have a good night.
Thank
Thanks
you.
for having us, Cindy. Take care, guys.
Of
Bye.
course. Bye.